start. Start over?
You can't be seen.
I don't like it.
You good?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. We know the weather looks like it's not that good, and we all wish that we could in warmer spaces. But we will start our community board meeting now for the youth services and education committee. Tonight we have a guest of ours, Ms. Naomi Banks. She's the co-founder, director of community and family engagements, and we'll be looking at literacy, a literacy program where we'll be hoping to encourage our kids and everyone to get back to reading. So without any further ado, I want to welcome you, Naomi. And now I will ask my board and committee members to introduce themselves. Pam, you're closer to her, so.
Hi, I'm Tamara, and I'm board member.
I'm Latween. I'm a board member. Nice to meet you.
I'm Brian, and I'm a resident member.
I should say resident.
That's fine. So we're all happy to be here.
Did you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Linda Watson Laura, and I'm the executive secretary of the Community Board 9. I'm also a co-chair for this committee with my co-chair Sophia, which she's not feeling good today, and we wish her all the best health in the future. And so we will not long, we will then ask you to present your presentation.
Well, thank you for having me. As mentioned, my name is Naomi Benya. I am the co-founder and director of Family and Community Engagement for Literacy Academy Collective. Before I go into the presentation, I like to start with my why, how I got here. So I am the mom to 4 amazing children. My oldest is 24, turning 25 next month, actually at the end of the month. So about 18 years ago, when my son started going to school, I started getting complaints. I was being told that he wasn't doing his work, that he was being distracted, that he was distracting others. He was finding ways to get out of getting the work done. And I vividly remember asking him, what is going on at the dinner table? And he looked at me with his 6-year-old self and said, hi. He said, I don't know what it is. It's like my brain is not letting me. And that to me was a cry for help. So I decided that I was just going to do what I needed to do. I went to his doctors. The school was already telling me that I should look at doing an evaluation. And what ended up happening is I lucked out that they let it slip out during the IEP meeting that the hallmarkers of what my son had was someone that had dyslexia. I had no idea what dyslexia was, what it meant, what it looked like. So I started doing research. And I remember finding out that there was this reading program called Orphan Gillingham that if you do it for students who have dyslexia, it helps them read better. So I went to my kid's school and I was like, hey, I know what he needs. He needs this program. Let's pull out those books. And my principal told me, we don't have that here. No one is trained here. But I promise if you do these other things, it would help. 3 kids later, so I'm 4 in total, I will tell you that my 25-year-old son is the classic case of a school system that failed a brown boy. He massively struggled his entire academic career. By the time high school came along, he was behind credits. He ended up going to a District 79 high school, a transfer high school, to get his GED. And while he is brilliant, he has felt so defeated in his academic journey that he has 0 interest in going to college. So fast forward, in the middle of the pandemic, I have everyone remote learning. My oldest son is preparing his portfolio for the state to get his GED. My youngest kid, by then everyone has a diagnosis of dyslexia, so every kid I learned a little bit more, and I got more savvy, and I got connected with more people. And it wasn't until we were remote learning where I was with my youngest son. He was in the 4th grade. He had been held back twice already. And I was like involved. I was the poster parents of involvement. I was the president of my CEC. I was doing all those things. My son couldn't read, and I knew he couldn't read because he couldn't do basic things. He couldn't text me. He couldn't read a menu. And he was in the classroom trying to do work, and it required him to read stuff on screen and to type, both things that he couldn't do. And I remember realizing if I didn't do something to save him, I was going to lose another brown boy. Because I had already lost in my, he's doing amazing, but to me, he was not on I didn't want him to have the same trajectory as my older son. So I did the process of looking at private school options. So I was fortunate that 18 years later, I had the time, the money, the know-how to start navigating the process. So I got connected with an attorney that's going to cost me $5,000 a year to sue the Department of Education. I got him into a school that's $80,000 a year. And when he showed up in 5th grade, he was reading at a 1st grade reading level. He is now in 8th grade, reading a 6th grade reading level, which that's leaps and bounds, but he's not at level. So he's going to be at his school for the next 4 years. But that process in itself really was crappy, and I didn't want another parent to go through that ever again. So this is how the Literacy Academy Collective started. We are a group of 7 women who collectively, we have 10 dyslexic children. We all are from professional, distinct backgrounds. We all do a little something. But we all have a connected tissue that we all had children who suffered to read deeply. It affected them massively, and we did not want another parent to experience that ever again. So we formed Literacy Academy Collective. We're a school nonprofit support organization. We're similar to like Urban Assembly, Eagle Academy, where our vision is to open up schools to support literacy. So we model our schools after these private schools that my kid goes to. One of the private school partners that we have is Windward, and they have been a willing partner. They want all kids to read, so they have allowed access to their teacher training, to their materials, so that way, and they actually come and consult with us. They look at our classrooms to make sure that what we're doing is within alignment with what they do, but with kids that are from the community and are struggling. At LAC, we fundamentally believe that literacy is a civil right. In this country, we have a really ugly history of limiting who can read and what they can read. Unfortunately, it's happening now. And what we are of the opinion is everyone should be able to read so they can make up their decision and their minds on what they want to read. And we understand that things are needed. One thing that I like to show is the current stats for the New York State Department of Education. Only 30% of our kids are reading at proficiency. And if you look at the stats for Black, Hispanic, students with disabilities, and multi-language learners, they are dismal. But 100% of everyone, there's not a number here that's 100%. So what we do know is that some kids are doing slightly better than others, but none of them are at 100%. I like to draw this attention because when we talk about the school to prison pipeline, it is massively real. There was a Riker study done several years ago that highlighted who was incarcerated from the ages 19 to 21, and they found up to 40% of those who were incarcerated had a reading or writing disability. And that makes sense, right? So if your child is struggling academically, you don't want to be in that school building because it reminds you of the thing you cannot do, and you drop out, and as my mom says, nothing good happens in the streets. And that's what ends up leading. So what is dyslexia? A lot of people go, oh, dyslexia is like reversing letters. No, it's not reversing letters. It is a neurological condition in the brain where there are receptors in the brain that do not connect to the different parts in the region that connect language. It affects 10 to 20%. So the lowest is 1 in 5, and the most could be 1 in 10. So at least in the room here, the stats is there is at least one person here that's struggling to read. And when you look at a classroom that has 20 to 30 kids, you also have at least 1 to 2 or 3 kids in that classroom that are struggling to read. It is also hereditary. So in my case, my children's father is severely dyslexic. But way back when, that wasn't addressed. That was just said, he was lazy, he didn't care, and he continues to mask it in many interesting and creative ways, so no one knows that he cannot read proficiently. But if you have a child that's struggling to read, there is a high likely chance that someone in that child's parent's universe or adult in their parents in that child's life can't read either. So there's a little test, and I added it so you can look at it, but there's a true and false quiz that I like to share to see, where people understand, but I'll skip that. I want to keep everyone here. But it's a reminder that people think that language happens naturally. It does not. Reading is not a natural thing. Speaking is, and that's why we can understand language a lot quicker. But if we look at what our roots are, our roots started in villages and tribes where we related with sounds and drawings. Language and letters happened later. And oftentimes, English is one of the hardest languages to master. I mean, PH makes the F sound. It's ridiculous, right? If you're not a native English speaker, you're like, why does this happen? It's not like this in any other language. And I like to show this slide because children start to give us clues when they're struggling. A lot of it is behavioral because that is what the language children can portray. So in my son's case, he started bedwetting in the 3rd and 2nd grade because he did not want to go to school. There was constant, complaints of his stomach hurting. There's always frustration, there's fidgetiness, they will do anything they can to get out of the one thing they cannot do. And as adults, our vision is to continue to educate and have this conversation so we can stop looking at the behaviors and start asking why. So I like to show the brain because I don't think people understand how exactly the brain works with language. There are different regions of the brain that we need in order to connect language because all of these are connected. If in the brain of someone who has dyslexia or struggling to read, these connective highways are not connecting, they're damaged. So oftentimes students who are struggling to read, they need more repetition in more frequency to be able to make those connective sounds. So in this slide, you see that there's a region of the brain that stores the actual word bird. That is where we keep it. There's another region of the brain that when I say the word bird, you think of a bird. That stays right here in the yellow region. When you think of the word bird in this green region, it actually breaks down the word because now you know it. It's in your memory bank, how you spell word, bird. And this one is responsible for the patterns of that word. So what's really interesting is if I was to show you quick nanoseconds of a word that you already know, you'll be able to recall it immediately. With someone who has dyslexia, they cannot do that because they don't have the connective highways of the brain to connect them. Another fun fact, these regions of the brain are the same that you need to tie your shoe. So many cases, children who struggle to tie their shoes past the 5th grade are probably students who are struggling with literacy as well. The minute they learn how to read, they can tie their shoe. Now, the approach that we've been using in public schools, unfortunately, wasn't backed by the science, that we have over 50 years of scientific data. We've been teaching kids how to, what they call balanced literacy, which is little tools like this guy that I do not like, Mr. Skippy Frog over here. They were teaching kids to skip the tricky word, read to the end, go back and try again. And when you're skipping a word, it could mean completely, totally different. So we were teaching kids to memorize, we were teaching kids to skip. So when you do that, they're not actually learning how to read, they're learning skills to cope, to survive. So once that we know that this is not working, this is where the science of reading comes into play. This is what we call the reading rope. Balanced literacy really focused on the language comprehension, background, pictures, words, comprehension. But what it didn't do was the red part of the rope, the decoding, the recognitions of the words, and the phonetic awareness. Hi.
Little.
This is the basic formula for literacy. In order to be literate, you have to be able to decode the word and have the language components, comprehension skills to decode it. If one of those pieces are missing, if you cannot decode and you cannot understand the language or understand language comprehension, you are functioning as an illiterate. This is also another breakdown of like the ladder of reading. Statistically, about 45% of students can learn how to read pretty easily and organically. The vast majority of the population needs more repetition with more intent. So, what is structured literacy? Like I mentioned in my story, there is this, it goes by many different ways. There is Orphan Gillingham, What's the Science of Reading, Structured Literacy, Explicit Instruction. There's all these other ways of saying we're teaching kids the basic foundational skills to be able to learn how to read. Here, and this slide does a comparison of both of the approaches that we were doing with balanced literacy and what we're doing now with the system. This is a fun example that I like to share with people. The word ED ends with ed, right? So when you say printed, it sounds like ED. But when you have it with the word cornered, that doesn't sound like ED. It sounds something different. And when you have skipped, it has ED, but it sounds with a T. So these are the skills that we are, with structured literacy, what we're teaching kids to be able to decipher and manage. Because when a kid is struggling to read, if you tell them the word skipped, they're going to write a T at the end. So with those skills, they'll be able to see, that word ends with sounds like a T, so it might be ED. And there's double consonants, so there's all these tricks that kids start to navigate. We also do, writing is just as important as reading, because you can read really well, but if you can't write, you're just as stuck. This is another exercise that we talk about language writing development with the word but, because, and so. So why am I here? 2 years, so when we started Literacy Academy Collective, it was 5 years ago. We were just advocating for a school to open to support students who struggle to read in the New York City public schools. It has never been done before. There is one other school that exists in Colorado, and it goes from 2 to 5. So every other school that exists is a private school in the country. So we worked, we advocated, agitated, and aggravated the powers that be at New York City Public Schools, and we were able to open South Bronx Literacy Academy in 2003. It supports students who are at least 2-3 years behind. In the South Bronx, it covers, it's borough-wide, but it is intently targeted students who need this, who have been underserved, dismissed, and we work really hard to make sure that the students that come to us need us, and also that the teachers, when they come to apply, are also in a space that they can provide said services, because just because you can teach doesn't mean you can teach our kids. So we actually do professional development as well to make sure over the summer for any incoming teacher that is going to teach at a Literacy Academy school, because we want to make sure that those adults are not doing additional harm to our children, because parents and children are coming to us with real academic trauma, and we want to create a space that's nurturing and providing and supportive. So I'm here because we are going to open Central Brooklyn Literacy Academy. It is going to be a school that is going to be, at the current moment, housed in School District 17. and we are up for a PEP vote April 30th. The goal is to open 2nd and 3rd grade. We're going, all our schools are 2 to 8 schools, so year after year, we'll add a grade. Our schools are for students who are 2 to 3 years behind. We have district priorities, so we will be priority for school district 17, school district 23, school district 16, and 32.
Not 75 or 70.
No, we're not a district 75 school. That's it.
What should we do?
Well, I'll take the question. Well, let me go through this and then you can ask me, and I'll explain why. Our classrooms are all ICT, meaning there's 2 teachers in the classroom. We're capped at 18 kids per class. And what makes our school different is that we have a speech and language pathologist, a speech teacher for every single grade. And then we have an OT teacher for every 2 grades. So that's a lot of adults in the building that we all train. And every single child is 2 to 3 years behind in their literacy. I'm happy to share that we have a principal in place. Well, he's a project manager. He'll be interim acting, and then he'll be principal with the due process. And he is Mr. Jason Borges. He is the guy that was leading the literacy efforts for New York City Public Schools. He was helping with New York City Reads. He saw this as an opportunity to do something in his home district. He is from Brooklyn, he is from Bed-Stuy, and he wanted to be able to launch the school with us. And we're eternally grateful that he wants to do that. So we are currently in the process of doing massive outreach. So I am on my world concert tour across Central Brooklyn. We are hosting virtual office hours. So if anyone has interest, they can pop in and for an hour speak to myself and the proposed principal. And then we're also doing basic, if people have interest, they can fill out the interest form and we can catch them. Applications are gonna open April 21st. We are up for the vote April 30th. And then applications close mid-May, and then we're gonna start the enrollment process from that point on. And that's my information. And I will take questions.
So you're not a CEO?
We are so our organization, we're a nonprofit school support organization. So we're like Urban Assembly or Eagle Academy or Women's Leadership, where we are a nonprofit school support organization, and we help design the schools in partnership with New York City Public Schools. So we help design each one of the schools that we open.
Oh,
Yep.
Do you guys have a location yet?
Currently, we are, I'll tell you the address right now. We are slated to open, give me the address, 'cause I don't know it off the top of my head. We're slated to open at 188 Rochester Avenue. And depending on logistics, we'll either stay there or we will probably, if not, we can incubate there for a year and then move to a permanent location after. Yeah, just work out logistics.
What's the date that you're supposed to open?
April 21st.
They're gonna vote, the official vote happens before the board, April 30th, and we will open our doors September.
Which board?
The New York City Panel for Education Policy. They're the like the PEP, yeah. They're like the school board for the entire city.
So those districts that you said has included that, some of those are part of this community board?
I don't know. I don't know what the encashment is for you guys.
This is
We
not.
have is District 17.
Yeah, yours is 17. So I have done my outreach to all the community boards in 17, and then my next phase is the other districts as well.
Are you
So-
working with the superintendent?
Yes, yes. And the CEC president.
The students that you get in, Are they exclusively with your school? They come from the other schools to go there to?
Yeah, so any child that's gonna come to, we're New York City Public Schools, so anyone that applies to us is gonna stay with us.
Oh, okay.
So we're working with the superintendent and the CEC 17 president to sort of spread out the word.
We had both of them Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the panel, yeah.
I was gonna ask, was she at the?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Yeah, we have the same class.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're in my pocket.
Okay.
The goal is, you know, for families to know, the superintendent knows who's struggling in her district. So the minute the vote happens, then she's gonna start doing organic outreach to those schools, because they need to know that we are an option. And you know, ideally, what we would hope is that a kid comes to us and there'll be two natural exit points. You know, if a kid just needs us for a little while, maybe once they get to 5th grade, they can go back to their district middle school. Or if they need us to go to 8th grade, they'll be with us. But at least when they get to high school, they are set up to success, so they can thrive.
Right.
Do you want to ask me why this is not a District 75 high school?
Yes.
We are not a District 75 school, and that's intentional because unfortunately the way the system is built, it is like Gen Ed, ICT, or District 75. And typically the students who are in District 75, they're supposed to have sort of a profile of students who have like autism or something along those lines. Historically, the students who have struggled to read, they have often just been warehoused to District 75, which is not an appropriate setting for them. Because these are children who do not have any capacity delays. They're just struggling to understand the language of English, literally. So we were really intentional on, our model is really an intensive special education setting, but with students who are, you know, they're capable of doing the work. They just need the foundational skills to be able to learn the language. And once they learn the language, every kid is doing grade level content. You know, there are pieces that have to be modified, like the writing has to be modified, the English, you know, the ELA component has to be modified because they're learning how to do that. But once they've mastered that, it's all within grade level content. Where the grade level also gets connected is with math and with social studies and with history, you know, all those things. But that's why we're not a District 75. It wouldn't be an appropriate setting for a student that's been allocated. If they have like a diagnosis of like autism, we don't have a para on site. We don't have, you know, a 6-to-1-to-1 or a 12-to-1. We don't have that because our setting is for students who are struggling to read. Yeah.
Do you have plans in the future to try to incorporate that in there?
I think so. In South Bronx, the great thing about having a school open already is that there's so much that we're learning. So one of the things that the principal has actually been talking is she wants to have a 12-to-1, and I think it's valid. I mean, you know, initially when we decided to do this, we were like, we're gonna have a school for dyslexic students, and the truth is that to get a diagnosis of dyslexia, you need to spend up to $10,000 for a neuropsychological, and no one has that. At South Bronx, out of the 98 kids, I think maybe 5 have a diagnosis, but 100% of them can't read. So,
Right.
you know, they're
So
all
your focus is on children who can't read,
Read.
that are 2 grades behind.
exactly.
So that means you only got almost 40% of kids.
Well, yeah, and so that's the key piece, is that they have to know that we're an option. So my goal is to do the outreach in every shape, way, or form that I can. So these flyers that you have on the table, you're gonna see them shortly on street poles and in bus stops and at train stations. And we're, you know, I do some Link NYC advertisements. Do some radio, do some news media, because we need to people need to know we're an option. If they don't know, we're not, they don't know they can come to us.
So in reality, you're not really an alternative school. You are
For
really
a new creation.
Yes, we're a new school, brand new school.
for struggling readers
Yeah, I understand.
to the age.
So most of the time, well, I grew up with a friend that had dyslexia, going way back. I'm not gonna mention my age.
21, stop
But
it.
I believe he was diagnosed with it when he was in middle school. Okay, and like you said before, it's just a matter of when it's explained to you, oh yeah, well, certain letters they see backwards, they see D's and B's and B's and
Yeah.
G's and stuff and struggle. But he went through whatever steps he had to go through and, you know, pretty much got through it. So obviously they didn't have anything like this back then. So how difficult is it to diagnose a child
It's hard.
with dyslexia? I
It's
thought they,
like
I
outside
thought they
of the
really
cost.
by now had tests for that.
There is there's one test that does that. It's called a neuropsychological evaluation. In order to do that, you need to go see a neuropsychologist. It's a battery of exams that's really long and lengthy. So my kids have done it, and it's an average of 2 to 3 or 4 visits, about 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours at a time.
Wow.
And they're testing everything. They're testing attention. They're testing material difficulty. They're testing a wide range of things. The issue is that test can be anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Not many of these doctors take insurance because it's a pain in the rear end to get paid. So either you have an insurance that will pay for it, but then you have to find a doctor that takes your insurance, and then you have to get on the wait list. There's organizations that will pay for it. Those wait lists are about a year and a
That
half.
was my next question. Ruth, as at your nonprofit, would you be able to get grants to help them?
No, so what we have done is we have relationships with organizations that do that already. So if there's a family that comes to us that would like to get a neuropsych, we can refer them to do that. The truth is, if they're one of our kids, we already know that and oftentimes those evaluations, what they do is that it's like 25 pages. 20 pages is explaining the psychological background, the health background, educational background, then talking about the test results, and then the 5 pages is like recommendations. And what we have done is that we deliberately created a school that fits within those recommendations. So when a child comes to us with a neuropsych, they're gonna say, you need to be in a small classroom, check. You're in a classroom with 18 kids. You need to be in a classroom with 2 teachers in the classroom, check. We already have that. You need to have speech, a couple of times a week, check. We actually have that. But what we do is we don't push out kids. We pull in the speech therapist. So that way they're not missing instruction. You need a direct and explicit reading program to help you how to read. Check. That's what we do every day for 90 minutes a day in the beginning. So in the beginning of the day. So we deliberately created a school setting that fits the criteria because we know 95% of everyone can benefit from this. This is not just for dyslexic students. This is for everybody.
How do they really, the teacher really catch that for your child?
They didn't. And that's the issue. Teachers aren't trained to find this. And this starts at the college level. And that's something that we as an organization started to do. We're doing some policy work with the state commissioner and the chancellor of the regions to start implementing some science of reading courses at teacher education programs. And they're gonna change the tests to ask some questions about this because it is unfair that teachers are getting degrees at these schools and they're not talking about how to teach reading. And they're setting up these students for failure because then they come to teach our kids and they can't do that. So that is some policy work that we've been doing as well.
Well, now we got rid of the Department of Education.
The U.S.
The U.S., but we're
Yeah, but
the state
that's
is there. The
still-
state is
that's
there.
still down.
It's not fully got rid of yet.
That's
You
right.
can't do that without Congress.
Right, right.
Really.
Yeah, this is like the together.
I did have a quick question.
Yeah.
Has the Literacy Academy ever been evaluated?
What do you mean?
Like independent evaluation, sort of the intervention and sort of assessing outcomes for students that come
Yes.
out,
We're
maybe comparing to other schools?
1000%. So South Bronx is in year 2 of that. So they've been open for 2 years now. So actually, we have hired a group of independent experts. One does data, and he's a nationally recognized guy, Devin Kearns. And then we have 2 other experts in the structured literacy space, science reading space, who are actually working at our South Bronx model to look at outcomes. One, from what we discovered, what they could do that, but I don't deal with numbers, I just am given the numbers. But one of the fun facts that has come from that data review is that 100% of our kids in the South Bronx had 0 summer slide. Because they are actually learning things, and they're learning it the right way, and they're retaining it. So there's some promising, amazing, another data was our kids are reading up to 4 times. They're getting mastery in literacy up to 4 times of their expected rate. The expected rate for our students are between 1 and 2, and our kids are at 4. So they're making moves, and we got some kids who are pretty close to meeting proficiency, above proficiency, and when the time is right, we're gonna have those discussions with that family. So, they can stay here or they can be somewhere else. That's an option. But yeah, we absolutely are doing that. There's always room to grow, and I'm not a school leader. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a principal. So I'm just someone that likes talking to people and likes connecting with people. So we always constantly asking what can we do better? How can we develop this more? How can we push our kids to do more? Because our kids are capable. They just need to be given the skills.
So
I
you're,
don't- Go ahead.
but you're one of the most important parts of this whole thing. You're a parent.
Yes, and that's
The
what I'm saying.
parent knows more about the child than the teacher, the neurologist, anybody else.
1000%.
So you are ready to grow word. You're the roots of a tree that will grow
Yes.
effectively.
Well, that's the goal, and I say this often. 100% of us will not benefit from what we've developed, but it is I say this is my love letter to the kids, my own personal kids, particularly my oldest. I couldn't help in the way that I wish I could have helped him. So, because I don't want another family to ever go through what we experienced.
So, piggybacking off what she's saying, so now you have a school that's teaching kids how to read. So what are you doing for the parents to help the parents?
I'm glad you said that. So part of the work that I do is I work at the school level to also develop workshops on literacy for families. And I bring in not just, I have my generic 101 intro to literacy, but we also bring in experts. We brought in NYU professor in literacy who does this fabulous presentation on the, she calls it, oh my god. Anyway, she calls it the brain highway or something like that. And it's really amazing and really engaging. And we had a standing room only of parents who were eating it up. And it was amazing to see them ask questions and get so involved. We also know that there is going to be a high likelihood that there is someone in that child's life that also can't read. So what's really beautiful is that part of the proposal, CEC 17 really advocated for an adult literacy center that's going to be housed at that location. And that's actually secretly something that I'm excited about, because I have always wished that while a child is reading upstairs, that their parent can be reading downstairs and learning. That's going to be a more sensitive conversation, because adults are not just going to stand up, raise their hand, and say, I can't read. So that's gonna be a conversation, that happens kind of organically, and like maybe come to this workshop, and so that way you can work
Trust.
your way. Yeah, so you can work your way to trust, and they know that you have them, and you can support them in the right way. But yes, it's fundamental to involve the families, because I was getting a lot of comments on like, oh, my kid can't read because he's lazy, or my kid can't read because it's the iPad. And I'm like, no, that's not what's going on here. So it's changing the narratives too.
I want to go back to your to the vote for the candidate for education policy.
Yeah.
Is that something that would be shared with our community? Is that something that people would be asked to come to?
It's a public
present?
meeting.
It's a public meeting.
It's a public meeting.
Once a month.
So you can just go here to the
You go to
website.
the DOE website and you type in PEP or
Yeah, I usually type
That's what I want.
NYC.
I want to share that with our
Yeah,
people who are not here.
I usually
Oh,
type
okay.
NYC DOE PEP, and then it'll give you to the PEP website, and
you
then
can
it'll
look at
give
all
you
the
meeting dates.
archives and all
Yep.
that stuff.
You click on meeting dates, you go to April 30th, and there's a live stream, or you can go in person. So that's you.
Okay, thanks. We can share that with our community.
I do have a comment. I applaud you for recognizing that your son needed help and actually being vocal about it, because I witnessed that's something that a lot of parents don't like to do. Maybe because I grew up in a Caribbean household, so everything is stayed in the house. When something is wrong, and not let people know something is wrong, and that's an hindrance to the child. Period.
1000%.
So I mean, I'm not that, but I do see that it's an ongoing issue that I'm seeing as a parent. Parents are feeling in denial about what their kids need.
And that's hard, because I think, no shade to the men in the room, but I find that the hardest people to convince are the dads.
Yeah.
So whenever a mom tells me I gotta talk to dad, like inside I cry, because that means they're never coming back. Because dads have a harder time sort of recognizing, and sometimes moms too. But I think once women know, like, we get activated, we want to problem solve. I think dads kind of like bury their heels in the ground and like, no, like he's fine or she's fine, and they'll work it through. They're like they just create these narratives, which is why I'm going to do a dad video. So whenever a mom tells me I gotta talk to dad, I'm like, wait a minute.
Did you ever
Send
see
him
the
this
movie
video.
The Right to Read?
Yes. Just so you also know, someone followed us for 4 years, and there's a documentary on us as well. I'm happy to send you that link. There's a website. We're gonna, once the school opens, we'll probably do like a community screening so people can watch it if they're interested in seeing all the crazy things that I had to do to get this going. Accosting Bill de Blasio and all that fun stuff. So, but yeah, so that's yeah, we have to change narratives. That's what it comes down to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you came Saturday.
I know, I'm glad I came too.
Okay, only one question I want to ask.
Yeah,
you.
go
Would you be staying up or you?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay. Can I stay?
Yeah.
Absolutely, great, thank you.
Okay, so now all the points appreciation has been shared. So now we could go into our agenda. Yes. Right, I know our next item on the agenda is the careers day, and the other one is the review. I want to shift the big so we do the review of the education community first.
Okay.
Right, because that might be a little bit short, and I don't want us to get too bogged down in something that's coming and something that has been done. To be given the opportunity to review first. So, Billy, I want to say thank you to Billy for really pulling it off for us. And I know that Latrine and Josh, they too will join me or even share their own appreciation for Saturday. We did put the best we could into it. We arrived to work and we did work. Thank you. Right? So Billy, you were the point person, the middle, the end, the top, everything. So I would like to hear your review of it first. So that's the-
I wrote notes. I'm just trying to look for it. But while I'm looking for it, I just want to just speak from the heart that I appreciate everybody like bringing it and sticking through with it and not like walking away from it. Hope folks are streaming and can hear me, but I want to find this. I want to say I keep saying, you know, every time someone says, "Oh, Billy, you do this," whatever, I couldn't have did it by myself, you know. And I do appreciate everybody playing their role. Twyla's not here, but she also should be acknowledged as well. And I got Josh with the language, you know, and Latoya coming in on different ends of the wrinkle. Like, I just appreciate everybody stepping up and being involved, and Linda being my soundboard quite a few times, talking me off the edge, quite a few times. So I just want to let you all know how much I directly appreciate you. Now let me find my notes because I can't find my something. I guess I remember something like that. So as we saw that, you know, we had the turnout that we had to turn out. That's the only thing that that's the reason why I didn't want Dante to tell me what kind of RSVPs we got, because I knew that would have had an effect on me. That's the area that I just can't control. That's the area I can't manage. So I try to keep my brain away from it. But I did see that we had more of a following online than we did in person. And as I kept going back, I'm seeing that people was actually staying for it. So that was really interesting to know, to see, but still, I still want to buy these, you know. I do think that that area, we felt that, because I know I was pushing the panelists to promote, but I think our short period of time played a part. I know it was a Saturday, it was early, you know, that played a part. But I was particular with this panel, even though I had backup options. The options were people that can bring in at least 10 to 15 people, you know, to that auditorium. And I was kind of searching them. I knew two of them, they're not on social media, they don't, you know, whatever, they don't share. But the remaining, I know that they had folks to put in those seats or whatever. And I was kind of disappointed that the only person that I did see pushing it was the superintendent, Thompson. And she pushed it through the message hub. And I saw that because it was shared on my class dojo for my son's school, who never shares public community news stuff. But they'll share her stuff directly. You know, gotta keep the principal, keep boss you know, happy, type of situation. But yeah, she was the only one that I saw pushing. That I was disappointed. What else? I'm so appreciative that they were engaged and invested, and like they were having a little spiel on the stage on the side, joking and carrying on and whatever, and we're having a great time. I noticed stuff like that as a producer, so I was glad that they were vibing. I was very uncomfortable with how the entrance of CM Joseph, but I got over it. I got over it because she did bring, you know, something to the conversation. And I do want to speak with her office about, you know, the overlapping of lack thereof, I should say, from her office. I don't want that to happen again, not from them or not from them, because we didn't do it. But I'm glad she stayed and contributed and had a good time. More than anything, she had a good time. Where's my notes? And I have so much to say.
You wrote them on the...
No, I wrote a document, but please chime in, folks. Please chime in.
Okay.
I think overall, it went well. I think maybe just keeping track of timing. You know, we went over a little bit and started a little later. Also, Josh mentioned something really good. Are we gonna do thank you notes before I forget? We did already? Okay. Yeah, I think, timing. Just making sure we're strict on time, for sure. That's a big
When you say we went over time, are you on the schedule?
Yeah, because I think what we were supposed to do, like 12 to 2, and I think at 12, we didn't, at like 12:15, we were still kind of setting up type of thing, which, I mean, that was on all of us, but I think just that's just a note for next time.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. With the 12 to 2 thing, where did that come from?
I don't know.
That was on the
It
flyer.
was
On the
flyer.
flyer event was 12 to 2, but that wasn't our time in the space. Our time in the space was 10 to 4.
Okay.
So what's
we
the-
technically were still.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I think we started I guess if the public schedule was from 12 to 2.
I purposely said 12 on the flyer to get folks there on at 12, but on our schedule was 12:30 that we would have officially started.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
I made this whole
We
presentation
still were a little
for a
late
reason.
from 12:30, but
For a reason.
You added,
But
you
if
added
we're
the
not on the
buffer.
flyer,
It wasn't
Yeah.
seriously intentional.
Concentrate on
At 12.
quality.
yeah.
It was
Rather than
12
something
o'clock
like
flyer
that.
intentional.
Yeah.
That would not.
Because you knew you were gonna start late.
Cause you know, color people, we gonna make
Yeah, we come late.
Yeah,
I
Right.
didn't.
Once I was
Right,
like,
folks was coming in
What
at
time
12,
did y'all end?
12:15. We close to 3 o'clock.
cleaning up,
about
yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Alright.
Cleaning up and panel wrapping.
And Penn laughing on.
Yeah.
Cause they were still
Probably
chit chatting like.
Yeah, can we do that simultaneously so that y'all can get out?
Yeah.
Which is the thing, it did go over because they were really engaged.
They were really engaged,
So,
yeah.
right.
I mean, it's not often. I know, it was a little unexpected, but it's not often that you have the chair of the city council education committee grab a chair for herself and place herself
Yeah,
on the
right.
panel.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Cause Fred asked me, he was like,
Yeah.
you want me to say that? I said, no.
No.
That was it.
I was like, where's she at? Yeah, I was like, where's she
Yeah.
at?
Normally,
And it is she was
Yeah, they
standing
gone, yeah.
She said, I'm going to sit on this thing.
And I'm like, did I say what happened?
I'm glad she
That's
said.
funny.
Yeah,
No,
but
no,
I
it-
mean,
it
how
added
it
so
happened,
much.
how it went about, I didn't approve of. But I'm glad that she did because at the end of the day, she enjoyed the conversation and she contributed to it.
Yes.
You know,
She has
as
a
well.
committee, we need to get more involved in her committee. We need
Yeah.
to find out more of, cause we the education committee, so
Yes.
we need to,
I thought of that too.
get on her
When she
Yeah.
was-
mailing list
And
and
she's clearly locked in.
Locked
with-
in.
she ain't scared to fight.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get on her team.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I, when she came in, I didn't realize it was her, and I spoke to her briefly, and I was just sort of like, small talk, saying we were trying to figure out what would be the best role for you to fill in, and from there, she was like, I'm wherever I need to be in any role, and turns out she did all 3 of the different roles that we had, opening, analyst, and a keynote at the
Yeah,
end.
she came, she saw, and she conquered.
That's right.
Right.
So do we have to do committee minutes?
Can you finish
Suppose-
town hall first?
Yeah, first. Okay, let her finish.
Okay. But with that said, I don't mind changes like that as long as changes work. You know, I mean, it could have been the wrong producer that would took offense to that and and it turned a different direction. Dante didn't know. He was like, okay, whatever, and what have you. But I'm glad that she was that interested enough to do that. But I just wish that we had a better
That
prepared
is a
time.
forte.
That is,
Education.
which is something that I get, but it's not something that I can accept ongoing. I don't do that. So, and that falls on her office because she wanted to be there. Her team wasn't communicating effectively as they should have to make sure we prepared for her. As you saw on the program, we didn't have a picture of her, we didn't have a bio of her because her office did not send one. So for her to walk one way she did, I totally understand why. I totally understand why she did that. But she didn't know that her office was, dropped the ball in communicating with her.
You need to have a conversation with
Exactly.
about
Exactly.
how
Exactly.
people.
It makes
And
it doesn't make
And
it
you saw the
yeah.
emails.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was
We should just use our advantage
Right.
to
wait,
get
no,
on our
because
board.
it's not something that we have to entertain. It's not something
No,
this
the reason
should
why-
not repeat itself.
the reason because, all right, I've experienced something. We had a petition going
And
on my
watch the
block.
times, they
Yeah,
block.
on my block to have her vote no on the city of yes proposal. I went to her office on Blackbush. Office was locked. So then I emailed it to her. I never got a response saying that, you know, they received the email and they'll go on it. I told that to Anthony Bedford. He said, that's on her staff. All right, it's not on her. And I will tell you personally why, because every year, I just mentioned I having a block party this year. Every year I have my annual block party. I send out my emails to all the locals. She showed up last year. So she'll show up. But as far as them responding to an email, just, all you gotta do is let me know you received it. I don't care how you vote. That's your personal thing, you know. But we constituents sent you something, so all you gotta do is respond. So that's on the staff.
Okay.
So this might have been on the staff too. So she has to know. Her staff probably dropped the ball.
Yeah.
You think she'll know that already?
Should
Right.
we?
Well,
I don't care what she did or didn't know
since-
prior. I care about how our relationship with her stays professional
Sure.
and cordial.
And we're gonna do
And at
that.
the end of the, I do want a conversation with the office because I need her to know from me, as a producer, that's not okay.
For sure.
Because I don't want to not be a nice producer. So I don't want that.
We shouldn't be too hard.
No, I'm
Yeah,
speaking
I-
how I feel because this is a rap meeting and that's what we're here to do. And I want to be able to do that because the beginning of all of this started wrong,
Mhm.
unfortunately. And I'm hoping that it don't repeat itself. It really shouldn't repeat itself. And if I feel it affected everything. So I'm just speaking how I feel because I haven't had the opportunity to do so in these meetings, except for, on phone. But I haven't had an opportunity to do so in these meetings. Okay, so I still can't find my minutes, so I
Okay.
probably sent it to somebody else.
All right, so, I'm still looking at the time.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
We'll
see.
be here and we got one or two things to do.
Minutes.
Yeah, our minutes,
He's still working on
He's
it.
still
He's
working.
pulling
Okay,
them
so we'll
together.
skip
put them
them.
together.
Okay.
So,
So I can,
career day.
even if we, right, I'm gonna go to career day, and even if I could always give you the minutes,
You
you
know,
could
it's
take it
nice.
home, and we
Mhm.
could come back to look at it next week.
Mhm.
Now, career day, let me give a little.
Who has it? What you think he has it?
Oh, we send it to him for him to print first.
Oh.
He's just reformatting it a bit.
To make sure
so he's
it's
still working on
prop,
it.
yeah, go ahead.
On the careers day, we know that on our last committee meeting, we talked about the date. That was one thing that we had to update first, and we were looking at May 3rd. Since then, or since our last week, there another little challenge arrived where we discovered that the location that we wanted to keep it at cannot be on that date. So that means either if we want to keep that date, we have to look for a new location or change the date to the date of the original location could accommodate us. So I reached out to Dante and I asked him if we could seek what is happening at Halliburton, and if it's available for that date, we would keep our date. So personally, I would not like to change the date. Now this date has been changed already, but I'm a person with faith, and everything happened for some good reason, right? And so my committee, we should get back. We've already got like a lot of stuff in place. Today I got from Cynthia and Solis and me all of their contacts from the last meeting we had. So I got that in place now, and we could get together and we could update Akita's work, and there's some stuff, maybe you could join us. And Pam, you could too,
Well.
anybody, rather say any suggestion you want, cause this is one we got fully borrowed. So everybody's invited to put their hand, the suggestion, the fee, everything fee, so that.
Well, can I make a suggestion? When y'all have your committee meetings, whatever meeting you having, it's like it's only for the people who on the committee. Can it be open, like,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes
Yes,
I
I
just wanna
didn't know
come
that.
in and sit, I mean, I wanna say nothing, but I wanna sit, because I joined in on the end, right?
Because I share with everybody.
Yeah, but she's,
That's when
So,
I
send
that's-
you an email, and I'll make sure that you.
Oh, I thought.
You,
oh,
cause
I
sometimes
thought it was my bad. I thought it was on
you
the-
get, and it says only for committee members could join this meeting.
Oh, really? Oh, no, that shouldn't be the case.
No,
No,
I
I think what happened
Yeah.
is that when we originally talked about these events, we set up some subcommittees.
That's,
Some of the subcommittees then went
No, I
off
need to-
and made separate channels.
Oh.
And so
Mhm.
that's maybe how folks who want to get involved now are
Right.
not in those.
yeah,
So I think whoever is the owner of that channel, we just need to make
Just share it for
it's-
everybody
yeah.
and anybody that wanted, cause we all
Or
committee
since
members.
now this
Yeah,
is
but
the
I'm
only
on the
event,
link.
we could just go to the main.
Yes,
I
but
think
you're,
so,
yeah,
yeah.
right, so you're on the main chat.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
then we could do
What's
that,
up?
because
Yeah,
normally I
we
put
just-
everything on the main
now-
chat.
yes,
Plus,
now
I-
since this is
then
the
I took
only
it over
event
Brady,
left.
I didn't show who's.
No, we got that
You know me,
email.
I put everything on the
Yeah,
main
but the
chat.
major,
Yeah, sometime you would be,
Okay.
maybe have.
Cause I'll help out,
Yeah.
y'all know, you know,
Right.
I'll
So
jump in
our
where's
main
needed.
thing now, without much conversation, because we don't say so far, then we don't know exactly, is that we would try to get, I'll try to get, work with Dante this week and get the new date, we send that out, and then we push.
What's
start
the
to push
time?
it. Our
Cause May
time,
third will be here before you know it.
yes, our time for this one was 10:30 to 2:30.
yes.
So can we be specific on these times? The time that we have the space
It's
is
from
what
like
time?
9 to.
No, we get from like 9 to
To 4.
3:30, because
Okay.
9 to
what I do
2:30. Okay.
is that I do lock, roll in and roll out.
Yeah.
So, but the event open to the
event is
public.
10:30 to
Yes,
2:30.
because we
10:30
changed.
to 2:30.
Yes, our committee had a meeting and we decided that that was a good timing for people to come.
I know I owe you some things, language for the invitations to businesses and community members. It's on my list.
Okay, good, I'm not gonna do this for you, so you.
I ask a question,
Yes.
so you're gonna send these things out to vendors and stuff already, yeah?
We started, but we
Yeah,
have to,
just need
we
to
just
confirm.
send to get up their availability, stuff like that, response. So because we have a big, as you know from our last meeting, we updated the flyer, the presentation and everything.
Yeah.
And we were just about to move the May 3rd, then we discovered.
When is our next meeting for Reese?
Then it's a good,
I
as
think
usual,
the
I put the,
14th,
as you need for
It's like next Monday.
next Monday. Oh, for the career day.
next Monday.
It's next Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Question,
And then we'll just put that in the chat so
Still-
everybody can join.
am I still slated to provide music with?
So
That was
we
the thing
talked
we
about
said.
that, and what are we waiting for? Budget, I believe. But we definitely feel
This
as
is
if it's not even the whole time, maybe you kind of do create a playlist at the end.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
No, but what I'm saying is, I still will have to be there the whole day, because remember I said the last time,
Right.
I'm not gonna roll in equipment through people
We didn't
walking
get to
in
finish
and
them
out.
home, but
In and
as
out.
long as it incorporates.
Now, the other thing is, it was said at the last meeting that I may have to have vendor number to do that. I posted my vendor number in the chat, and nobody responded to that.
Is that on the paid information portal?
Yeah,
Okay.
passport.
Yeah, that's what I do. I thought there's one too. I'm passing the thank you note around since we didn't get to really go finish the tone.
This one, did you
That
put
was
it in
sent
the
out.
chat?
Huh?
Did you send
I
it
sent
to
it to
me?
you. I see you. Yes.
No, there was a one, Brian, I have to share this with you. One of our meetings, right, there was a suggestion, Let me talk about, how did I play this, I remember it, I saw it written somewhere. Instead of, not being, or not really a fair, not really complete in where we have in a hiring of you, because remember you had said your cost was $100 an hour,
Right.
right? There was a conversation on the cost and, what we can pay, and then there were two options. If we could pay you, we would be, if we can't, then you would have some music stirring from somebody who wants. So I want to be upfront with you, and you understand what's
I
happening.
understand. That's not an issue with me.
Okay.
I just wanna know where I
And
stand,
right now,
so I know what I have to do.
Yeah.
Right, so that's
that's
the
just-
possibilities, we
Right.
would,
Wait for
we would
budget.
have, we would get back
So
to
let me
you.
ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is it really necessary that like a DJ vendor has to have a passport for these things?
To be, to
Hey,
receive
that's
any
weird.
funding from board dollars, yes.
Yeah,
Because it
that's
will be
not-
like
otherwise
city
it's
tax
around
dollars,
it.
so you have to be a registered city vendor.
Well, like I said, I have one. I
Okay.
explained that the last meeting, that I got one before, because I was trying to do events for the Parks Department. And I went in there that same week, the next day, after we had our meeting, and I checked, and I said, yeah, I have money. Then
So
they
you do
said
have a
I
passport
had to
holder?
go- Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Now, my other question to you, if, as you know, you did say that you can't have a 10:30 because you got to set up and take them, because 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, that would be 4 hours, right? Which should be beginning, the basic cost for you would be $400. Now, I am a person, so I speak this right? So that's just the basic. So if you, from the time you arrive to the time you left, it might be more than $400. Then, to be honest, that might be half of our budget, so we might really have to have a conversation with that, okay?
Okay.
So good, so we'll get back to you on that.
Can I ask you a question about that budget? Because we didn't really use a budget for town hall.
Yeah, but,
Cause that can't be
no, they're two
transferred.
different things. I'll have to find them.
Cause
Yeah,
I'm
because-
serious, like, that was one of the questions.
So let me
that
check
we
with that
asked.
for you on the budget.
We did not, we didn't even hit $100.
Right, that's right.
And we were approved for 1,000.
4,000 for the
Yeah.
town hall, right?
Yeah, and we didn't even hit $100.
Okay. So let me check with Dante.
Yeah, because everything. I
If
kept
it would
everything
be, because if it would be
Yeah,
like
the
a
printers. Yeah, and you
Yeah. Let me check up on Dante.
The only thing that, so I'm sorry, real quick, Linda, but the only thing that was most expensive is my services, which is out there. So, but everything else is digital. Yeah.
So let me check up for Dante, if the budget was for our community or per project,
Okay.
right? Then we would know exactly what it is. So I just want to make sure that you know that
That'd be great,
the
yeah.
options,
Yeah.
the payment we're looking at, rather than we keep on saying, oh, there's a bit out straightforward talking. So we have a big.
That's not a problem. Because like I said, this is business.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
just
mean,
so
I
you know,
understand,
we can't use
I understand, I'm on the committee and everything, but this is still business.
All right? So I think,
Just so you know, we can't use Amazon.
yeah.
We,
So-
we've got a lot of vendor
Yeah,
stuff to
we've got-
figure out,
yes.
because we
Yeah,
gotta order
because-
food.
Yeah.
And then when we get back to the committee, we're gonna discuss that like that. But as I
And
say,
We've done it.
Break down what you, like, because May is tomorrow, pretty much in our head. What do you need us
we don't,
specifically?
I will have to go back.
Yeah, we're gonna,
We
we
don't, we
have
can't do
to,
that. I really
On
can't do
Monday-
that.
That's why we need
Yes.
to go when they have
Yes.
their
Yes.
committee minutes, we need to sit on them
Yes.
because you can't do it all
Can't do
here
it here.
tonight.
So we'll
No,
send
we're
a
not-
meeting.
I'm not one who does committee meeting in the general meeting.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
send a meeting reminder
Those are
on
the minutes.
Monday,
Yeah.
just so it's fresh with the link, so that way we can.
Right,
So
so I
Monday.
think
that's
I've got one
usually
of
like at
us.
7 p.m.
But yeah,
Yes.
so it's 7.
So 7 p.m.
Monday,
Monday,
have a good
block
day.
your calendars.
No,
We could figure. Okay.
even now I should be at my work.
Okay.
Include me in that.
Let's pick it. Let's
This way we could really
I
do
think
business.
it's just something.
We have to get a subcommittee? Oh,
No,
this
not,
shouldn't be.
not a channel. I was against that. Because I feel like we're all on the same committee, like you
Right.
said. Everybody should know the same
Right.
information.
We only got paper one.
So I never
There's two of them.
knew.
Yeah.
All right, so you can, I want to just table the minutes for this meeting.
Yeah.
So do your review and next meeting, it will be on the agenda for us to organize.
Sorry, I actually think the last time we had a subcommittee was Tuesday. So I think it was Tuesday the 15th.
Perfect.
That's the next one.
And that might be executive committee meeting, so.
Okay, we'll
All right,
schedule.
yes.
I got
All
a
right.
question, now what,
Never.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What happens if Clara
I
Barton
didn't say nothing
can't
more.
do the
We,
job?
been like this since I've
we
been on the board.
were declined something.
Yes.
Just for everything.
Every
But you
time.
know,
Right.
there's a lot of.
Another
there's a lot of
suggestion
question.
was
Like Evers?
Like
No, we can't go there because they're charged. So I have already
they
checked.
charge.
Yes, I've
Okay.
already.
Just so-
Sol mentioned having a friend that offered up the space.
Yeah, but that might be considered too soon. I already checked it.
Okay.
What was the date for the submeeting? The subcommittee?
Tuesday.
But you're gonna send it out because that, the date we're looking at might be the executive committee.
The executive meeting is on the 15th.
Right,
So that was
so
Tuesday.
that was interesting.
For the next submeeting?
So could we do it like the Friday before? Do we have Friday?
That would be this coming Friday.
Right, can we do it earlier as anticipated? 'Cause
All right, let me speak to my committee and then I'll get back to
And
you,
just
Billy.
send it and
And
what's
then we'll
up?
just
Yeah,
send it on
send
the
it
Because I
website.
don't want, there are more, three of us,
Yeah,
and I don't like
You
making.
gotta respect your
He
team.
said,
Yeah.
yeah, respect the committee.
Yeah.
and I
Yes.
just wanna know in time what you may need of me to do, I'm gonna need time to do it.
That's why we going to.
Right, that's
have a
why if we
committee
could jump on a
meeting.
meeting
Yes.
with them, it would be
Yes.
easier, so that this way, like, you could throw me anywhere, but
So that's any other business?
no, to
Mm.
my knowledge.
Once we get the date,
So once we,
Any other business we need to talk about?
no, not yet.
no.
Did we approve these minutes?
No,
we will do
next
it next
time.
She said she's gonna table it for
Yes.
the next meeting.
For the next
So it gives you time to
Do
go
we
through
have
and
the
review
motion
and bring your
and vote?
notes, anything.
We don't even have a quorum.
Yes, and we don't.
Right.
Now that's another thing. Okay, yeah, I know there was one thing I want to say before we go on to other business. I looked at the membership of this committee here. There are people
The
here,
names,
there
yeah.
are people here who have not attended meetings or won, right, since we started. Some people are not part of our, none of these committees, they were not on the education, they're not on the careers there. And I know at during meetings, we talked about how the membership of committees, attendance at committees affect the membership of the committee. I just know Josh said, could we have a quorum? I'm not sure. Is this meeting that is sitting here really legal? I'm not sure.
There's 2 board members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three,
Good.
three.
3, we,
Yeah. But no, the name,
No.
we need
But how
to.
many more members?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I noticed myself not on that list every year.
Exactly.
I said
She
send
said
it.
Camden
Every
said
meeting.
that.
Sorry, that's why I was getting to
I'm
it.
sorry.
Exactly.
Right there.
I hear it. I take good attendance.
All right.
I hear ya.
And I'm like,
So
I said I'm tired of saying
Some of the
it.
names are
I'm
never,
like, I didn't know
yeah.
Georgia.
We've been missing some of the,
I'm like,
So if you look at
I'm
this, we don't have a quorum, now it's just me and the client.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
came one
Right.
for
time.
sure.
But Malcolm is never here.
Yes, so there, I'm going to have to speak, I know Diane, she's come so she could be excused, and Sol is excused. Right, because she did text me to say she would be there. Right, Akita, I know she is working. I don't know Demetria Farrow?
Yeah, I haven't seen
I'm
her.
missing
right,
her.
Deborah Cadner, right, Mandaki.
That's
So,
all I'm saying.
yeah, Vanessa Steer,
Vanessa Steer.
right, so we might have, but Dion Saab, she came to the,
Oh, there's some people came,
Right.
I know some people just kind of go to different committees just to show face once, so I wonder if that's what happened.
That was me too, I wonder if there were people.
They just came once and then.
Okay, now let me
So
answer
we probably
that.
have to compare it to the larger board.
Alright, so let me tell you who should be on.
Is my name on that list?
Bring down with my big notes.
Should be. See the list or not? That's not on
I don't know.
Who do we notify to update the list?
So I should just leave, right?
Actually,
And I shouldn't have been working. I should have been here.
So that was the part I wanted to
We-
make sure
we-
that
we
we
like
do before we
it.
leave, so I
Don't
got all
worry.
of it. Let's go with this
show
quick. Let's go with this quick, so that when I speak to the chair, I can say, it should be sold myself, Lisa Bass. Right, I've never seen
Lisa
her.
has never.
Never
She
seen
hasn't
her.
joined in forever.
Melissa Severe, Melissa, but she helps out with us.
She's
She
still
comes out,
visible,
right?
yes.
And she said, the client is here, Dion Sub. I know she came to, not the last meeting, the meeting before.
And she's part of the
But that was
board.
the first, yes, and she's a board member. That was the first time I saw her
see
from
that
board
anymore.
meeting. Right? Well, actually, this is September attendance that I was looking at, but they also. Now, the resident committee, Cynthia Rose, Vanessa's there, I've never seen him, Nakin, I've never seen him, Billy, Deborah, never seen him, well, Nikita, yes, and there's Brian, and there's Diane.
Well, we need Karen
Don't put my name, they got my name on there.
I'm sorry,
She's
man,
just
I
gonna
already
make it
got
more
you on.
official.
Right, cause you'll be here, but for the first day came,
I
you'll be
ain't
here.
We probably only missed one meeting.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Right, and so I'm
What do you
gonna,
say?
I'm gonna speak with the chair, so
Okay.
that we arrange this, because we
But don't
will
forget,
not
Twyla
have
switched.
quorum, even if we're not here, from this.
Twyla's now on us
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
she
Twyla
switched.
joined us.
She left the other.
She's up,
It's something I gotta do, let me know
No,
what I
she was
gotta
always
do.
on it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no, at the beginning of the
yeah.
year, she,
Yes,
so
so Twyla,
different, but yeah.
and
she
she-
got-
She said
it's
that.
got
Oh.
you done.
And by the
So-
way,
School board members.
Yeah, so I'll speak to the chair, so that see if we could get our attendance, that's so that our quorum, right, would be more in sync in how we
Yeah, 'cause
conduct our meetings.
Last three meetings, we always kind of
Yes.
borderline.
What
Yes.
is that?
Yeah.
for y'all doing such a
Okay, so
fabulous
thank you all
job.
for coming tonight.
I love
The
And
meeting.
so I'll just move
It
over
is a
that we
chocolate
end
drink,
up
so
and
take
we
the
have
one you
meeting.
can,
Keep-
no, don't.
So
Oh,
our meeting
Meeting
is
adjourned, meeting adjourned.
meeting adjourned at 8:30.
Yes, meeting adjourned.
Approved, yeah.
So, these are, enjoy,
Those are edible.